shut up and win. Machiavelli.
Here's a truth the world won't tell you. Most people talk themselves out of power before they ever even touch it.
They overshare. They overexplain. They expose every thought, every doubt, every weakness, thinking that being transparent earns them trust, thinking that explaining themselves earns them respect. But in the real world, the world of power, leverage, and silent wars, words are liabilities. The more you speak, the more ammunition you hand to the very people who quietly hope you'll fail. Every fear you confess, every insecurity you admit, every plan you reveal before it's done, becomes a tool that can and will be used against you. Look around. The people who actually win, they don't explain, they don't defend, they don't advertise their every move. They shut up and execute. They win, while everyone else is still busy explaining why they haven't. The harsh truth is, every time you open your mouth unnecessarily, you give the world a little more control over you. You reveal your fears. You reveal your doubts. You reveal your limits. And the moment they know your limits, they know exactly how to box you in. Silence isn't just the absence of words. It's the presence of control. Control over your image. Control over your energy. Control over how others perceive your strength or your weakness. And here's the psychological trap. The more uncertain people feel about you, the more their mind fills in the blanks. They start projecting onto you. Is he dangerous? Is he brilliant? Is he unpredictable? Is he a threat? And the best part, you never had to say a word. This is why the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. Because noise is cheap. It's a mask for insecurity. But the one who can sit in silence, who can let others talk, brag, expose themselves, that person controls the room without lifting a finger. And while everyone else is busy explaining, defending, and proving, you're already 10 steps ahead, quiet, unseen, unstoppable. Silence isn't just defense, it's offense disguised. Because when you stay silent, you force everyone else to reveal themselves. People hate empty space. They hate uncertainty. They rush to fill the silence with their thoughts, their opinions, their weaknesses. They overshare, they overexpose, and without even realizing it, they hand you a full map of their insecurities, their fears, their pressure points. Meanwhile, you say nothing. You sit, you watch, you collect information. And in this game, information is power. Because when you know what drives someone, what scares them, what they secretly crave, you don't need to manipulate them directly. You simply guide the situation, subtly, quietly, until the outcome bends exactly the way you wanted it to. No threats, no arguments, no drama, just silence, paired with observation, executed with precision. That's the difference between noise and power. Between trying to win and silently owning the game. There's a reason why the most dangerous men in history, the most unpredictable leaders, the most respected individuals, were always the quiet ones in the room. Because silence forces respect. It forces curiosity. It creates tension. People start wondering, what is he thinking? What does he know? Is he planning something? Is he dangerous or just disciplined? And while their minds spiral, while they overthink, second guess, and project their own insecurities onto you, you remain still, focused, deliberate. Here's the truth. The person who speaks less, chooses their words with surgical precision. Every sentence lands with weight. Every pause is intentional. And every silence becomes a weapon sharper than any insult, any argument, any noise. Because silence communicates two things. Either you don't see them as a threat, or worse, you see them as irrelevant. And both are devastating. The loud are fighting for attention. The quiet, they command it without asking. So how do you weaponize silence? How do you turn quiet into control? It starts with mastering the most uncomfortable skill on earth. Not responding when every part of you wants to. When someone insults you, stay still. When someone questions you, hold your tongue. When chaos erupts around you, don't feed it. Because every time you resist that urge to explain, to defend, to prove, you steal power back from the situation. And it does something terrifying to the other person. It makes them confront their own noise, their own desperation, their own need to be seen, heard, validated. And while they scramble to fill the void, to guess what you're thinking, to interpret what your silence means, you observe, you listen, you collect every piece of data they unintentionally hand you. And then, when the timing is perfect, when the leverage is yours, you speak, not out of emotion, not out of reaction, but out of intention. One sentence, one phrase, one calculated move that shifts the entire balance of the room. Because when the quiet person speaks, everybody listens. Once you understand this, you realize silence isn't something you use just in conflict. It's not just for arguments. It's not just for when someone challenges you. It's a lifestyle. It's a strategy for every room you ever walk into, every deal, every negotiation, every conversation, even with friends, family, and partners. Because the less you reveal, the more others reveal to you. The less you explain, the more power you have over the narrative. The less noise you make, the more people have to work to figure you out. You stop broadcasting your plans. You stop sharing dreams with people who don't deserve to hear them. You stop announcing your every move. And suddenly, you become dangerous in the best way possible. Because nobody knows what's coming next. Nobody knows what motivates you. Nobody knows if you're 3 steps ahead or 10. And in that confusion, you move in silence. You execute quietly. And by the time they realize what happened, it's already too late. The most dangerous person in any room is the one nobody can read. Not because they're fake, not because they're pretending, but because they've mastered control over one thing no one else can touch: their own mouth, their own emotions, their own energy. You realize now, de personnel, the person who talks less is the person who holds more. More information, more leverage, more focus, more power. And the greatest mistake your enemies, your rivals, even your friends will make is assuming that silence means weakness. They think because you don't react, you're passive. They think because you don't explain, you're clueless. They think because you don't broadcast, you've got nothing to show. Let them. Because while they're busy guessing, doubting, and projecting, you're moving. Quietly, precisely, unstoppably. And by the time they realize you were never asleep, you were never confused, you were never weak, you've already won. So, here's the final truth. The world isn't run by the loud. It isn't owned by those who over-explain, who seek validation, who advertise their every move. It's run by the quiet ones, the disciplined, the unpredictable, the ones who know that words are currency. And every time you speak unnecessarily, you pay someone else. You give them access. You give them leverage. You give them the blueprint to control you. But when you master silence, when you master restraint, you stop leaking power. You stop bleeding energy. You stop handing out free access to your mind. Instead, you become a closed loop, a locked vault, an unsolvable puzzle. And in that mystery, you become untouchable, unbreakable, undeniable. You no longer need to convince anyone of your value. You no longer need to defend your choices. You no longer need to explain yourself to anyone. Because the results, the success, the power speak louder than words ever could. Shut up and win.